What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to another Sports Talk on Tap video. We're here. You can find daily uploads Monday through Friday covering all the four major sports leagues, whether it be NFL, NHL, MLB, or NBA, games, news, highlights, all that fun stuff. And if you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe. And in today's episode, if you haven't already, check out our episode from yesterday where we did Western Conference predictions, part 1, basically seeds 15 through 8. So kind of, the bottom up to the play-in teams. And then today we're going to finish with our high-end echelon teams and one play-in team. So it should be exciting. Me and Nick, obviously yesterday had a lot of agreements, a few disagreements, but all the top 7 remain the same for us, coincidentally enough. So I'm curious, Nick, kind of how it plays out. But I guess, we'll kind of start with our last play-in team, the 7th seed. And for me, Nick, this took me a little bit to think about, but I'm going to go with my 7th seed, Sacramento Kings. I think I like the move for DeMar Rosen. They're kind of, they did the thing last year, running it back. Didn't quite work. They kind of regressed or kind of stayed the same, but everyone in the West just got a lot better. And then they add DeMar DeRozan, who I think will be a good scorer for them in the mid-range and will just kind of help that offense get back to the top end of the league, which it was 2 seasons ago. But at the end of the day, there's just still too many defensive concerns for me with this team. Inconsistencies from De'Aaron Fox throughout the season are kind of a big thing. Domantas Sabonis will always be, a double-double machine, sometimes triple-double machine, actually, because he was really good last season. But still, just too many defensive concerns for me is the biggest thing. And DeMar DeRozan staying healthy throughout the course of an 82-game season, his age is always, a tough task. So I think, it will help them. I think their offense will be really good. But there's still just too many question marks surrounding them and just mainly the whole defense, because obviously you have bucket getters like Malik Monk, who they locked up. De'Aaron Fox can obviously give you 30 any night. And DeMar DeRozan is a consistent mid-range jumper. But just I don't know, just too many, when I think of it, they started Keon Ellis at the end of last season just to get some defensive help. But can his 3-ball be consistent? Because obviously De'Aaron Fox is a really inconsistent shooter. His probably best game is just driving and attacking. DeMar DeRozan obviously isn't a 3-point shooter, neither was Sabonis. So the shooters like Kevin Hurt are coming back. Will they be able to knock down threes consistently to help with the spacing? That'll be, kind of interesting to see. But overall, this team is still a really solid team, and Mike Brown's a really good head coach. So I like Sacramento to take a couple spots up after missing the playoffs last season.
Okay. I'm a little higher on Sacramento, so that hurt my heart a little bit, but you make good points. Now I'm going to go to a team that I also have health concerns for, which is why I have them lower than probably, I would say a lot lower than you, but I won't make any super assumptions. But I have the Phoenix Suns. I already put them in. I have the Phoenix Suns being the 7th seed and the last play-in team, or the first play-in team, however you want to look at it. I just have too many concerns with Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal at this point on if they can play together. Because if they can play together and finally, play cohesive basketball and play off each other well, they could be a very dangerous team. But just I've seen it one too many times with these Kevin Durant big threes, in Brooklyn and now in Phoenix, where it can't click. Like everybody, all 3 of these guys are guys that need to shoot the basketball. Like they need to have the basketball. It doesn't seem to be like there's any, sacrifice or I'll give up 5 shots so that the guys around me can score. And it's just, it obviously didn't work last year when they get swept in the first round by the Timberwolves. And I just can't see them being much better this year with even I don't know. I want to say the only way they would is if Bradley Beal plays, I'll say 70 games, because I don't think he's going to play the full season regardless. And same with Kevin Durant. And they both have to, play well off each other. There needs to be something. I
Yeah.
want Booker to stay somewhat healthy just because he's, on the younger side compared to those guys. And he's been pretty consistent throughout his career, but it's just tough for me to see this team, working.
Yeah. No, I agree. And that's why I have them at my number 6 spot. But I do think they made a good couple under the radar moves. I think, first of all, when we talk about injuries, Bradley Beal was banged up a lot last year. Katie missed some time. Booker missed some time, and they still basically won 50 games. So regular season wise, despite how clunky it was, blowing all those fourth quarter leads, they were still a top 6 team. I like what they did this offseason with the very minimal cap space they did have. Just bringing in guys on minimum deals like Monte Morris, who was with the Timberwolves for a little bit. Just kind of he could space the floor, just be a playmaker, always a good assist to turnover ratio. So if him running point guard for 20 plus minutes is fine, so be it. He'll have a great opportunity there. I think just they'll get, I just feel like they'll get better chemistry. Even with injuries last year, they, like I said, still won 50 games. So I feel like the lowest of the lows were there for them in the regular season, and they still, pulled through and avoided the play-in. And I think, this time, I think those get a little bit more chemistry together, playing off each other. Booker and KD playing at Team USA, I think will help out a little as they get ready for the Olympics coming up. And I just think it'll just be better for them just to get more time with each other, because obviously that can never hurt in the summer. I think Coach Budenholzer will help elevate this offense to a top, 7 unit in the league, because it has all the talent in the world, shooters like Grayson Allen surrounding them. And I think overall, if it was the same coaching system, I'd probably put Sacramento over Phoenix. But I just think, coaching makes a big difference and always provides that spark to get you over the hump. And I think Coach Budenholzer, is still a really good head coach, despite some of his playoff flaws. So I have Phoenix sitting where they did last year, although it wouldn't surprise me, if they looked better than like last year. I think people, will see the chemistry at least a little bit more because I have hopes that, they'll figure out something, whether that's maybe Bradley Beal coming off the bench or, just trying something different. You got to experiment. And that'll be kind of, interesting as we look to, the season ahead.
Okay. I thought you were going to have them a lot higher than me. I'm surprised, you only had them one spot higher, just because I know you're pretty high on Coach Budenholzer and maybe a little more optimistic on that team turning it around. But
yeah, but when you look at the 5 teams ahead,
it's tough to say they're better.
I can't. It was like the Spurs. You're thinking you want to put them in the spot, and then you realize you can't really put them any higher.
Right. Exactly. My number 6 seed, I have.
Well, maybe.
Well, did it show?
That's yours. All right.
Memphis Grizzlies. I don't think they're going to be, we talked about how we would probably put them around this area, like the 4 or 5, maybe 6 seed for where they could be with Ja and a fully healthy team. I think they're going to be on the low end of that. I think they're going to be at the 6 just because they pretty much lost a year of development with that whole team, just because Ja Morant barely played. Marcus Smart played like 20-something games. Just that team, there was, it was a disaster of a season for Memphis, if we're being honest. They lost Dylan Brooks. I think it's going to start to come back like midway through the season, like the cohesiveness. I keep saying that word, but because if Ja Morant plays, I think he's going to be a solid, 25 plus points per game. I know his shooting's a bit iffy. Same with Marcus Smart, but Marcus Smart adds he's such a factor on defense that it's going to, bolster their defense, just him being on the court to match up on some of the guards. And I think Ja Morant is too good to, be down with, those New Orleans and LA and both LA teams. I just think at their peak, the Grizzlies, we saw them, they were a 2 seed. They were winning 50, what was their wins? Like 54 games, something like that.
They won in 2021 to 2022, 56, and then 2022, 2023, 51. So
right. So they're, a 50 plus win team when they're going
Nah.
good. Obviously, the look of the team has changed since then, but I still trust them to be, out of the play-in, one of these top 6 teams. So call
Yeah,
me crazy, but that's, kind of where I got them.
I like that. Next team I have at number 5 is where they were last year, and it's the Western Conference champs, Dallas Mavericks. I think for Dallas, they're, regular season wise, not the most equipped just because of their reliance on Luka and Kyrie. And playoffs, it showed a different story. But even then, they were still a 5 seed last year, and just kind of one injury, Kyrie just kind of throughout a whole season always misses some time. And obviously, the depth around him, I think, is a little bit weakened. You lose Derek Jones Jr., you lose Josh Green. You do bring in Klay Thompson, though. So I think Najee Marshall can be decent. But it's, just still a chemistry factor. Now you just have to play with some new players. And I think Derek Jones helped provide a great spark on defense because he was taking on, Anthony Edwards in the Western Conference finals. He was, I believe, guarding, J-Dub for a good amount of the OKC series, and even probably some SGA. So Derek Jones kind of took on their toughest defensive matchups. And I think what we learned from the finals is I think next season teams are going to go after Luka on defense. They're just going to wear him out, get him frustrated. And obviously Luka is still a top 3 player in the world, so he can overcome it. But just regular season-wise, I just don't think they have enough firepower outside of those 2 guys. And with Klay Thompson, I talked about how he did have an underrated season last year. I feel like he was getting a lot of hate, but still average 19. He's still another year slower. His defense is only going to get worse. He's going to be in a new role. So does he how does he do in that role when he's been playing the same role for like 15 years, however long it's been Golden State? So can he adapt? Because we've seen superstars that just don't fit well after being traded after the longest time. And I fear it could be one of those situations. But, we'll see. Only time will tell with that. But overall, Dallas, really good team still. But regular season-wise, they're definitely not top of the top.
Mm-hmm. I like that pick. It's not where I have Dallas. It's close where I have Dallas, so I'll give a little hint on that. But I like the reasonings. I agree with you that, the firepower, as good as Kyrie and Luka are in that backcourt, it's tough to, rely solely on that because defensively that can be that's not the best defensive backcourt to say the least.
And losing some depth, like Josh Green was an underrated piece, and Derek Jones taking on some tough matchups. And if PJ Washington can hit the 3-ball consistently, there could be some rough patches along the way. And that's just what it is, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving into your number 5 seed.
All right, my number 5 is the team I told you I was high on. I have the Sacramento Kings. I kind of raved about the DeMar DeRozan signing when we got on here when it happened. I think it's a great move for them. I kind of root for the Kings just because I can't remember the last time I saw the Kings being one of these great teams before a few years ago when they were, what seed were they? I think it was 2 years ago. Yeah. So that was the first time in a while I can remember them being one of the top teams. So I think with Sabonis, De'Aaron Fox, and now adding another scorer in DeMar DeRozan, I think that's going to be that's going to boost their offense way up. I know the defensive problems you addressed are probably going to, show, and that's why I don't have them at that 3 seed like they were 2 seasons ago. But I still think the offense in this team is going to be top tier, which is going to boost them into a top 5 seed.
I love that pick. I could see that playing out. Even then, you're a little bit higher on them, but it's still a 2-spot difference. So I do see what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just high on DeMar, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I'm a DeMar fan.
Agree. So now entering top 4 seeds teams, I would have home court in round 1. Number 4, I have my guys, Memphis. Even as a Timberwolves fan, maybe a little biased. I just, Memphis has got that young swagger that I love in the team, and they've shown it. Like you said, Nick, I think there's a truth and a lie, not a lie, but a true. Yeah, I guess that's the best way to put it. A truth and a lie when it comes to missing a year development. Obviously, last year, Memphis 250+ win season, so looking, get back in there, add Marcus Smart, go, make a run at this thing. But then obviously the suspension happens. It's a lot clunky. But despite how bad of a year was, there were still some good things to take away from it. Gigi Jackson kind of busting onto the scene, showed a lot of good flashes that could be, a solid contributor off the bench. Zaire Williams getting a good run showed his versatility as a wing player. And then also, not having the best season allows you to get a high draft choice where they took Zach Edey. So that helps as well. So now you kind of look at entering next season and, just looking at this team, I do obviously have question marks, come playoff time. But at the end of the day, trotting a lineup out of something like John Morant, Desmond Bain, who's one of the best shooters in this league, Marcus Smart, who can still provide that leadership role that they're missing on the court and kind of take over that Dylan Brooks role, being a shot chucker, versatile defender, Jaren Jackson and Zach Edey. I'm curious how they use Zach Edey because I think they want to use Jaren Jackson back in that hybrid power forward role where he can just kind of roam around and, be that defensive player of the year guy he was. But then also just the depth on this team. Zaire Williams, Gigi Jackson coming off the bench, Brandon Clark, who's just an energizer, offensive boards machine. That was a huge part to why they won 50+ win games back-to-back seasons. Just getting him back. This Grizzlies team is deep, and they've got a lot of talent. I do have a question, still about the spacing-wise, because, John Morant's three-point shot still isn't there. Desmond Bain's probably the only one I like making a three because Marcus Smart doesn't do it for me. Jaren Jackson, kind of the same thing. He can hit them, but how consistently, I think, will be the biggest question marks to the Grizzlies' offense this season. But overall, they got a lot of talent together, and I still like this team. And I think Taylor Jenkins is a really solid head coach. So I like this team to bounce back and, be among one of the better teams in the Western Conference.
Okay. All right. Solid points. We have the same top three. I'll go right into mine. Whoops. My number 4, I just got them one spot higher than you. Dallas Mavericks. I do have them having, home court advantage in that first round just because I think Luka and Kyrie offensively are too good for them to have a huge drop off unless one of them, knock on wood, does get like injured or something crazy happens. I still think they're going to be a top 4 team. As we've talked about, I don't think they're a team that's going to get back to the finals just because of how loaded the West is and how competitive and how hungry all these teams are to get to the finals or in Denver's case, back to the finals. But I still see them as a top 5, top 4 team, really. Like every team below them, like if you asked me to pick them in a series, I would pick Dallas.
Yep.
So that's really
fair enough.
Yeah.
Kind of the same reasoning. Now we move into the top 3 where we do have the same top 3. But boy, Nick, did I want to put this team lower. Number 3, I will have the Denver Nuggets. It would not surprise me if Memphis finished ahead of them, if Dallas finished ahead of them, or even like a Phoenix Sacramento, because I'm just respecting them solely on Nikola Jokic. Last year, regular season, I think they hit their peak of, winning 56 games because even in their championship year, they only won 3. But this the biggest question with Denver last season was their depth. You had Christian Brown come in, give you some run. After that, it was Justin Holiday trying to make some threes and Reggie Jackson. So what did they do? They got rid of their best defender, KCP, at least perimeter defender, and did absolutely nothing. They lost Reggie Jackson. So what is their lineup going to look like next year? Is it going to be Christian Brown, who really kind of regressed in his second season, who's, a versatile defender, I guess, but now he's going to be getting full run. So he's going to need to take on a bigger offensive role. How will his defense be impacted by that as being a starter? And then if Christian Brown, where the depth was already lacking, comes in to be a full-time starter, what's the bench? I really don't know because you lost Reggie Jackson, who was the backup point guard. Is it Peyton Watson? And I don't know. Like, I really have no idea. I don't know if Justin Holiday's still with them. Is it him? The depth is a huge concern entering next season. But out of respect for Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr., you still got a solid starting five, even with Christian Brown in there. But just I'm disappointed in the Nuggets, like from like perspective of just offseason moves. You had a title window. You don't re-sign Bruce Brown. A lot of fans are upset about that. You then go on to basically because of a lack of depth when your star players, are, like Jamal Murray not getting it done. You turn to other players that you just don't have, and then you lose in the second round. Hard fought 7 games, that'll be said, but you still lose, and then you decide to just get even worse without making any moves. And maybe they're looking just for eternal development, but their first round pick, I believe it's from Dayton, Duron Holland, or not Holland, but their backup center. Unfortunately suffered a torn Achilles, so their first round pick won't even be playing this season. I think it was Holmes, yeah. So overall, just I don't know. Nuggets. I'll respect the superstar powers of Jokic and Murray, and still Michael Porter Jr. and Aaron Gordon there, but overall, very disappointed in the way they approached this offseason.
I was not expecting that much slander on the Nuggets, but you make good points.
You should see Nuggets Twitter.
Where they just ripping apart.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you're in this championship window. It'd be like the Celtics. Well, maybe not because obviously different players, but Bruce Brown was a huge part of that championship run, and it's like, oh, let's just not, we can lose, a Derek White. Let's just, we can lose him and put Pritchard in a starter. It's just like, it just doesn't make sense when they're not even a second apron team. And I get it. They didn't want to go over the second apron. But, if you want to be a contender, I mean, you got to be willing to take risks. So just disappointed is all I'll say on that front. And Russell Westbrook, FYI, does not move me. I think Russell Westbrook.
He would probably be their bench guy that you're.
Yeah, I think Russell Westbrook is honestly garbage. Watching him play and missing layups is just laughable. So it doesn't move me at all.
Okay, all right. That might have been like the surprise pick of the the Western Conference for me. I'm not just not the spot because they're still top 3, but just like the reasoning and how you think they could finish at the 4 or 5, maybe even 6 seed if they don't get it together.
I'm also a little salty at. I'm also a little salty at Westbrook just because he wants to laugh at Rudy Gobert shooting free throws, but then proceeds to miss a layup just a couple plays later. He's just a clown. So I hope to see him in the playoffs because Russell Westbrook. You're not getting a ring. But dang. No matter how bad he tries to ring chase.
Okay. All right. You got some beef with Westbrook. I won't get in between that, but I'll just give you my 3 pick. It is not the Denver Nuggets. It is Oklahoma City. I know they were the 1 seed last year. I think it's going to be a lot like how it was this year, where these top 3 teams are all going to be within a game of each other. I think Oklahoma City, like we talked about, Oklahoma City really pushed for that 1 seed in the regular season, and it kind of maybe wore them down a little bit. You can argue it did. You can argue it didn't. I think, they're going to be content with having to go on the road because I think they played fine on the road, in some of those playoff games. Obviously, a 3 seed, you don't have to go on the road until the later rounds. But I think they would be completely content with a 3 seed. I still think they're going to be one of the top teams in basketball. I just think with these top teams in the West, like it's so cutthroat, so competitive, like everybody's going for that one spot that I do think, between Oklahoma, Minnesota, and Denver, all those teams are going to finish within a game or two of each other, which is why I have them at 3. I don't have them finishing at the top of the race this year.
Yeah, I agree. I think spacing will be a little bit funky for them. But we'll get into that. At my number 2, I got my dogs, the Timberwolves. Timberwolves, obviously, basically for majority of last season, were the top of the West. I think they purposely lost that last game to Phoenix to bump them down a spot so they could play the Suns when we thought it'd be a tough matchup, but turned out to be easy. But with that being said, overall, for me, I like the Timberwolves again. Obviously, Anthony Edwards just getting another year older, but at the end of the day, getting another year older, he's still just going to be 23, which is crazy to think about. So, but at his age, progression like that is huge, and especially just in close games. What can he do to stay healthy or, just be consistent, more consistent in the regular season? Because I love him. But, there's a lot of times where he'll drop 30 plus one night and then the next night shoot 2 of 11. So just kind of getting more consistent. Karl Anthony Towns staying healthy because they honestly probably win the Western Conference by like a couple games plus if he doesn't suffer that injury that basically took him out until the end of the regular season. But, if he can just stay healthy a majority of the season, that'd be clutch. Obviously, Rudy Gobert just playing up to his defense like he did last season. They were the number 1 defense by a mile. I'm expecting that to track back a little bit. They can still, I think, be a top 5 defense. But where I think they will improve a lot is on offense. They finished 17th in offense last season. And I think they're obviously Anthony Edwards just getting better on offense, Cat remaining well. You still have Mike Conley. I'm expecting Jaden McDaniels from what he showed me in the playoffs, even against Dallas. I believe it was game 1 or something. He hit like 7 for 8 from 3-point range or something crazy. He hit like 5 in a row to start the game. He's shown flashes. He'll only be 24 if he can, take another leap in his game. Naz Reid building off his 6th man of the year. But what I'm most excited to see is from the rookies. Terrence Shannon Jr. averaged 17 points per game in Summer League, was obviously a top scorer in college basketball last year, 23 points per game. Just his attack versatility, obviously losing Kyle Anderson, who was kind of a Swiss Army knife defensively, but gave you pretty much nothing offensively. I think Terrence Shannon can be that guy to give you that help fill the good role offensively of, just being a consistent bucket getter. That attacks. He can shoot the 3, and he's a solid defender. I don't think he'll be Kyle Anderson level, but he'll be really solid. And then obviously the most intriguing piece is Rob Dillingham. And he's just a straight up bucket getter. And what I love from him in Summer League, even though the shot was really inconsistent in Summer League, it's only 5 games. I think his playmaking was really good. He was constantly getting double doubles and, just kind of being there. So I think being under Mike Conley's wing will only help them. But the reason why I just don't have them 1 is because I do think they got better for playoffs. They have more offense to balance out the still top defense they'll have, or around the top. I don't know if they'll be 1 again, but they'll still be like top 5, even if they were to take a step back. But I think they'll be better equipped for the playoffs. But it wouldn't surprise me during the regular season, just given they're going from veterans like Kyle Anderson, Jordan McLaughlin, Monte Morris to guys like Terrence Shannon Jr. and Rob Dillingham, who are rookies. I just think there'll be more growing pains. And, Rob Dillingham may have, those games where he shoots like 2 for 10 and, 1 for 5 from 3. But I do think it's going to look much better. I think they'll be, from 17th to around the 10 range. And on defense, like I said, still maintain a top 4 defense with the personnel they have. Overall, I think it's going to be really fun, and I'm excited to see, what they do to build off their Western Conference Finals because I do think they got better, more talent-wise. But, talent won't always equal to wins immediately when you need, Rob and Terrence to contribute immediately. But it will be exciting, and a guy like Leonard Miller as well.
All right.
So that's my two.
Gotta say, Jake. I'm just gonna give my 2 and 1 just because they obviously play into each other. Gotta say, Jake, I'm a little disappointing you're not rocking with your own team. I got the Minnesota Timberwolves being the 1 seed. I think, like I said, this is going to be a very tight top 3 race. That's why I have Denver at 2. I'd still think Jokic and Murray are like.
I don't want to be the 1 seed
to get them up. You don't want them at the Celtics were at the 1 seed this year. They won it all. That 1 seed.
Yeah, but it's different in the West because I really don't want to play the Lakers in the playoffs. We'll let the Nuggets take care of them.
The Lakers aren't making.
We'll see. I'm a little bit higher on the Lakers, but it really does become a 7v5, and the Nuggets thankfully were able to squeak out wins. But it's always in the script, man. Give me like I said, Phoenix last year. Give me Phoenix.
Yeah,
but I like it.
I've got Minnesota at 1. I just think they're the most complete team in the West when it comes to defense, offensive scoring, young talent. Like they have some of the best young talent. It's them in Oklahoma City for the best young talent really in the league. And I just think they're only going to get better. There's no scenario I see other than injuries, which we never want to see, knock on wood. That's the only scenario I ever see where they get worse. Go ahead.
Here's the thing. I like the respect, even though, we only have the 1 seed difference. I just think Mike Conley played 70 games last year, and that was a lot, and it kind of took a toll on him. And I am expecting him to play around like 55 or 60, just the workload. And the backup point guard becomes, you're relying on Rob Dillingham to, contribute immediately. And that's a lot to ask for a rookie, and I still think he has to put on some size and weight. So while I think they do get better talent scoring-wise, there's going to be some games you're like, damn, like he shot like, 2 for 9, and they lost. And, the consistency, it's a rookie, so they're going to, make rookie mistakes. So, at the end of the day, I just think, they might lose some games, just with the young talent. You'd figure they wouldn't on a Mike Conley rest night or something. That's kind of, where I'm leaning towards because you're relying on younger rookies than guys like Kyle Anderson, who may not be as good offensively, but, they just know what it takes to win.
I definitely understand that. I'm probably somebody who is a little more trusting in rookies than you. I know, whether we talked about it in football, baseball, whatever, you're kind of I need to see how he plays before I can call him whatever he is. I do trust rookies. I love the Rob Dillingham pick. I also love the Terrence Shannon pick. And I think both of those guys will be like contributors off the bench.
I think Terrence will be a much more consistent. I just saw in Summer League firsthand just because I was curious to see Rob one game shoot 6 for 21. Then the next game you see him drop 25. He's just going to have like those weird nights. And I think, being around Anthony Edwards will help. So he'll be more consistent. And obviously he won't be taking 21 shots in NBA game right now, I assume, unless, they want him to. But,
I also just think Ant is such a workhorse. Like he's such a dog that if Mike Conley needs to take the night off, he'll take on an extra 3 or 4 minutes just to help his team.
Yeah. No,
and he's going to
do
nothing but get better. He's only 23 years old. He's going to do nothing but get better. So,
yeah, I like it. I almost put them 1, but, just kind of flip-flopping back to mine. I have OKC 1. There's kind of 2 scenarios where they do play out. That 3 spot, I could see them, just getting a little bit worse, realizing how much of a toll it took them to be a 1 seed. But at the end of the day, that was such a competitive race. It really was any man's game, especially once Cat went out for like the last month and a half. I just, adding Isaiah Hartenstein will provide that solid defensive presence in the paint. But like I said, it's kind of like a Memphis problem in a way for me with the one question mark I have with their offense come playoff time. You have, SGA, who is really obviously top 5 player in this league, but his 3-point shot is probably his biggest weakness. Jalen Williams is efficient, but doesn't, take a lot of threes. So kind of, can he take on a bigger role? Chet, can he be consistent from three? That'll be interesting to see. And Alex Caruso, you add him though, who just provides the 3-and-D presence. I think, I witnessed firsthand him go, 5 for 5 against the Timberwolves one game. So he has that kind of potential as just a 3-and-D and one of the best perimeter defenders. And then Isaiah Hartenstein. I just think this defense is so well balanced. I think the offense, spacing, even with that question mark, when you go to the bench, Isaiah Joe, Cason Wallace, 3-point shooting is their bread and butter. So this team is just so complete as well. It's going to be tough. But, at the end of the day, if it was a playoff series, I'm rocking with my dogs if this was ever a hypothetical matchup. But I just think come regular season wise, OKC is just equipped, nucleared, just to grind it out games, SGA, mid-range when it's a close game. It's always cash money for him. So got to give him the respect for that. But overall, yeah, I do think come playoffs, I think it's a different story a little bit just because, Jalen Williams, it was his first playoffs to give him a break, but things just kind of looked a little funky with him. But, getting rid of Josh Giddey is addition by subtraction. And adding Caruso, who can also be doing some of the ball handling duties. I think OKC is going to be just fine. But, there could be, when you bring in guys, you're expected to, get it better immediately. But, it could take time to have, Hardenstein and Chet, two bigs play together or, so it could take a little bit. So I could see what you mean by a little bit of regular season regression as well.
All right. Well, that seems to wrap it up. We had a pretty similar.
Yeah. So for anyone that's wondering, this is my final list. Top three, we had pretty much everyone in the same category, a little bit different. But, with that being said, we're always curious to get your guys' thoughts. Was there any teams we kind of discredited or didn't give enough credit to, or, overrate some teams? Did we underrate? Let us know in the comments. We're always curious to get your guys' opinions. But this is our final part of our way too early NBA standing predictions for next season. Let us know in the comments what you guys disagree with or agree with. And we'll catch you next one. Peace.